Welcome back to Petty Astrology. I'm your host, Kaycee Felton-Lui. The first eclipse season of 2026 is winding down, but if you've listened to my predictions for the astrology of 2026, you know that this year is only getting started. The Pisces new moon closes out this astrological year, and it's a kind of goodbye. For many of us, probably a fond farewell to a time that we would rather forget. This Pisces new moon is asking us to go deeper, to understand that even the years that we don't prefer provide us with all sorts of nutrients and inspiration to become who we have to become next. And that's what today's episode is all about. Today on the podcast, the Pisces new moon, a kind of goodbye. Have you noticed that time seems to have sped up recently? Yeah, that's going to be a thing. Pisces energy reminds us that so much of our experience of life, and really anything, has to do with our perception. When the world looks and feels as it does now, it's easy to fall prey to our own fear or the fear of the collective, because that is the most obvious thing. But Pisces is the ocean. It is incredibly deep and complex, and there's a lot more than just what we see at the surface. There is infinite possibility. And for those of us whose spirituality involves some element of faith in a higher power, faith in ourselves, faith that good things can come out of even the most terrible of events. If we can swim in that faith, it can help carry us to calmer waters, to give us sanctuary in a world that often feels incredibly hostile. Being the last sign in the zodiac, Pisces is one of the more complex energies to talk about because it's so contradictory. It is not just one thing. It refuses to be boxed in or neatly understood, kind of like people, kind of like the experience of life itself. As you may have guessed, a new moon is a beginning. It's the start of something, but Pisces energy knows that every beginning is the end of something else. And so for this new moon in particular, it is important to engage with the complexities, to not just water things down, including your own experience of this last tumultuous year. This is the last new moon of the astrological year before the equinox on March 20th. So we are wrapping things up. And in a way, this is a new year and a new you. But Pisces energy reminds us that in our newness, we are also something much older. We are all of our history, all of the layers of ourselves, all of the connections to the world around us, to our spirituality, to the seen and the unseen. Believing anything less than that is a reflection of your perception. And for many of us, we're due for a reset. This new moon in Pisces is happening on March 18th at 6:23 p.m. Pacific. And it's happening at 28 degrees and 27 minutes of Pisces. That is towards the end of the sign. So, like I said, Pisces is full of all of these layers and contradictions. 28 degrees is almost at the very end of the sign, the last sign in the zodiac. So, as much as this is a new beginning, it's also the culmination of the last year. Beyond that, it also reminds me that we just finished a huge Saturn cycle, Saturn moving from Pisces to Aries, as well as Neptune moving from Pisces to Aries. If you've been following along with me, you know that we have been in this ongoing process of beginnings and ends. And I think this is yet another instance where the universe is kind of gently moving us from the past into a future where truly so much that we've never seen before in history is possible. We're coming out the other side of a direction-changing eclipse season, a historic eclipse season, and this is the last farewell. It's almost a moment to collect ourselves and also make wishes, be direct with our intentions. The new moon is sextile Uranus, and it's also in an out-of-sign conjunction with Neptune and Saturn, which are both recently in Aries. We just had the historic Saturn-Neptune conjunction at 0 degrees of Aries. This is a monumental reset. And I think many of us have understandably been distracted by the many world events that are taking place. As ugly as things are, remember that we are witnessing some dynamics that have been at play in the world for hundreds of years being turned upside down. And they've needed to be, because the way things have not been okay. And in fact have come at the cost of a lot of human rights, the cost of our planet. Many of us have been processing that consciously or subconsciously. But the energy of this new moon reminds us that we are not in Kansas anymore. And it puts the agency back in our hands. Now that we know that, now that we are feeling our way through what that actually looks like and means, what do we want to do with that? What is our spirit calling for? Another interesting element of this new moon is that Jupiter recently stationed direct in Cancer. It had been retrograde for what felt like a very long time. It's also at 15 degrees, which is the midpoint of the sign. Since last summer, we have been confronting our histories personally and collectively. And as much as we need the social shift that we're experiencing right now, we need a cultural shift to match that. And the thing about culture is that it's made up of people who practice that culture, who push it forward or don't. Looking around, you can see that many people are very resistant to giving up things that they're used to. The storylines that they've been told are right and just, and where they belong and who they belong to. At the same time, many of us are realizing that the world is so much bigger than our culture and what we've been taught. Understandably, many of us have limited ourselves based on our cultural perspective. Part of the spiritual reset and alignment that we are experiencing personally and collectively is learning who we really are in this particular moment and finding ways to get creative about what this cultural shift looks like for you. Because we really are in a whole new world, one that's built on a mountain of a lot of shit that's happened, but also stories of endurance, creativity, solidarity, and imagining beyond the present physical moment. There's a lot of shit in that mountain. I'll be the first to say it. In fact, I've had some really snooty spiritual people look at what I do and say that I'm too negative because I talk about what's really happening in the world. But my response to that is that fertilizer is made of shit, and it provides necessary nutrients to the food we eat, to the plants that we enjoy. We don't have to roll in it, we just need to know how to use it. We don't have to center our lives on the bad shit that's happening in the world and that has already happened, but we do need to know what to do with it. We can use those things as fertilizer for what we want to build next. And at this very moment, we are walking in darkness to some degree. We have to walk by faith. We have to reach in to that spiritual part of us and find something to hold on to as we move forward into this unknown future. It was always unknown. We just perceive it as being more predictable than it may actually be. But that's not a negative thing. In fact, that is something that should be exciting. The possibility of what we can create next can be so much better than what's come before. Reset your perception. This is where Pisces energy helps us. It takes us apart and puts us back together and asks us to notice the ways that these things are both the same and different. The ways that our strange and beautiful existence has meaning, and how we can bring those ideals of what our existence means back down here to Earth, where the people are. People like us who, by our very nature, are visionaries. We are creatives. We can pull reality out of the ethereal. New moons are a time to plant seeds that we tend over the next 6 months of the lunar cycle. And let me just tell you, the next 6 months are wild. And what's on the other side of this Pisces new moon is a lunar eclipse in August, where you're going to be surprised at how much has happened between then and now. I need you to imagine that and wonder about it and get excited about it. And then you need to backtrack and figure out what kind of seeds you need to plant in your life that help conjure that potential future into being. You do not need to know everything that's going to happen in between. You don't need to fill in the blanks, because there are going to be a lot of different factors in play by that time. Things are going to feel very different than they do right now, but you don't need to worry about that. You do need to trust the vision that maybe only you can see right now. If you can connect with other people who are also dreamers and carers, that will help you move through this period of time and continue growing and embodying that vision. Focus on the road ahead. It's not so much about your actions as it is about how you want to feel about what you're doing and experiencing. It's about your spirit. The Epstein class and its allies are doing their spiritual warfare. They're leaning all the way in to creating the world that they want. And so should we. On a personal level, this is not about combat. Actually, the opposite. It's what propels you to flow forward into the greater depths of yourself, remembering that each of us individually is part of a larger collective. What sets your spirit alight? What is the life and the world that you're giving birth to? We are in a new world where the old rules don't apply. That means we don't have to be limited by what has come before. And this Pisces new moon is a time to say an intentional goodbye and dream into what's ahead. New moons are a time to be intentional. I recommend doing something for this new moon that helps you reset your energy. So that could be something like an Epsom salt bath. Water is a great one for this Pisces new moon. It's a water sign. If soaking in water isn't really your thing, you can also spend some time near a body of water. Take an intentional walk. This is also a really helpful new moon to practice meditation. I know not everyone is a fan, but the important thing to remember is that there are so many different ways to meditate. And part of the practice of meditation is being more intentional with your energy. You can practice meditating in the feeling or feelings that you'd like to create. My suggestion is setting a timer for 10 to 15 minutes. Focus on your breathing. In that period of time, that's your only job. You are not being graded, so it doesn't have to be perfect. You just have to bring yourself back to your breath and nothing more. For those of us who are so deeply immersed in this capitalist, imperialist society, taking a break and just breathing, allowing yourself to simply exist, can be revolutionary. You'd be amazed at how so little time can change the entire course of your day. This new moon energy is really helpful for this. So even if it's not something that you're already skilled at, it's a great time to lean in, because these are skills that are going to be crucial in the years to come. Cleaning is a helpful ritual for new moons and full moons. I'd suggest focusing on the less visible stuff for this particular new moon. For example, I've been clearing out old files on my phone and my computer to make space. I've also been doing a lot of personal, emotional releasing and spiritual cleansing, letting myself feel all of the complicated and messy emotions of the last year and honestly the last 30 plus years. It's not about resolving anything, but it's more about coming to a place of acceptance instead of resisting all of the complexities of the past. Being in flow with them, not allowing them to drown you, but instead be the water keeping you afloat. You might want to try automatic writing, which means kind of letting go of the mental mind and just letting the words flow from you. That flow is what we really want to get skilled at. We don't want to bypass our feelings or our experiences, nor do we want to be stopped by them. We're looking for flow because otherwise we're stagnant, and that soon becomes unhelpful. I usually recommend setting specific intentions for a new moon, and this one is no different. And separately from the automatic writing practice, I do think it's a really good idea to write out your intentions by hand if you can. There's actually a study out of Dominican University by Gail Matthews about how writing down your goals actually makes them significantly more likely to happen. Writing intentions isn't about impressing anybody or being a girl boss. It's just not. It's about tuning into yourself and being intentional with what comes next, what you want to channel the energy of this Pisces new moon into. It's not a burn book, nor is it a to-do list. It's about tuning into the depths of your soul to help guide you through this next chapter, where the only real limitation is your own perception. If you'd like to learn more about the upcoming Pisces new moon, I'm going to be talking about it on Petty Astrology live this Thursday, March 12th at 5 p.m. Pacific on YouTube and Twitch. I'll get into more of the current event side of this energy, plus my predictions, because God knows there's a lot to talk about. Plus, I'll answer your questions and go deeper on the more personal aspects of the new moon. If you can't make it live, don't worry. Sponsors of this podcast get the replay as always. Speaking of, if you're a sponsor of this podcast, make sure you check out your March discount on readings, the bonus episode on the astrology of the CIA, because we're going to be hearing a lot more about them. And we also have our Discord and Patreon community chats to continue the many interesting conversations we have together. If you'd like to learn more astrology and how to use it in your personal life with a great group of people, join us for the next meeting of Petty Astrology Club on April 12th. You don't need to have any experience, and it's on Zoom, so you can join us from anywhere in the world, and we'd love to have you. That's it for this week's episode. Tune in on Patreon for even more Petty Astrology. This episode was written, edited, and produced by me, Kaycee Felton-Lui. It was also produced by Tony Penne and Dork. The podcast art is by Max Swanson. The music is by Paul Schneider. This episode was made possible by my sponsors over on Patreon.